And Wayne, how about you? What was the one reason, or perhaps more reasons than one, of why Jack Boland meant so much to you in your life?
Jack was like a brother to me. We didn't have a mentor-student relationship in any way. It was actually he was the very first person who really made me realize that the material that I had produced in a book that I had written back in 1975 and was published in 1976 called Your Erroneous Zones. He had called me one day he was a minister in a church. This was 1976, I believe. It might have been 77. And he was working out of a high school, Regina High School, on the east side of Detroit, in a classroom. And that's where his church began, the Church of Today. And he had a big dream that he wanted to build a church out in the eastern part of the city of Detroit in Warren, Michigan, called the Church of Today. And his church was called the Church of Today at that time. And he called and he said, this book of yours is really exactly what we teach here at Unity. And I didn't know anything about Unity. I didn't know anything about teaching in churches or even being affiliated with spiritual material. I just to me, it was just a whole lot of just good common sense about not allowing other people to control your thoughts, and about feeling as if you were the one that was in charge of your life, and so many of the things that were just a part of my training, which was as a Jungian analyst and as a psychologist. And he asked if I would come and speak at his church, and he also wanted to take the material out of Your Erroneous Zones and put it into a program and make it available at his church. And so I said, yeah, I'd be absolutely. At that time, I had just broken through. I was appearing on the Johnny Carson show on a regular basis, and Mike Douglas, and Phil Donahue and things like this. But it had never occurred to me that this was material that would be appropriate for a church service. He asked me to come and speak, and then he asked me to do it again, and then we got involved in helping to raise money for the church that he envisioned, that he wanted to build. So that was and what happened is we just became very, very, very good and close friends. And he would call me frequently, and we would talk about different things to talk about in his church services, and I would call him, and he wanted me to start speaking in not just his church, but in churches around the country, and he was very well known in the whole Unity movement. So Jack and I became very, very, very close friends. And my most significant memory of Jack, and I spoke at his church, I have no idea how many times, but I'm sure it was 40 or 50 or 60 or whatever it was. I would speak 2, 3, 4 times a year actually there. And but then he got sick. I wasn't even sure exactly what it was. It had to do with his back or his leg, and he had cancer. And this was now fast forward maybe 15, 16 years after speaking at his church all those years. I was very good friends with a man named Deepak Chopra, who I'm sure Les and Mary know very well as well. And I was going out to do something called Panchakarma out there at his center in Massachusetts, and I was told by someone at the church, because Jack didn't talk about it, that he was very much in need of treatment and that his life was in jeopardy, and so I called him up one day, and I didn't even ask him if he would like to. I said, I'm going to take care of this financially. I'm going to pay for it, and you're going to come with me for a week. We're going to spend a week together up in Massachusetts at Deepak's place, and we're going to do this treatment and this training and see if we can do something about this cancer that is ravaging your body. And so he came with me, and he had his room, right down the hall from me, and this place out in the woods. And it was winter time because I was out skating and so on the pond out there. And he came into dinner one night, and we were all sitting around. There was maybe a dozen people, all of them there. I was there just kind of doing research and learning about Deepak's approach, the sort of Vedantic approach to healing and so on. So it was an exciting time for me, and all the rest of the people were there for very serious healings. And Jack came in that night and sat around the dinner table, and first of all asked each and every one of us to just say something about this day. What did this day mean to you? And we all went around the table, and that was a typical thing that Jack would do. And then he told a story about a butterfly. He loved butterflies, especially monarch butterflies, and he talked about the spirit inside of a butterfly. I remember him saying it. This is a little creature that has a brain the size of a pinprick. And it's made out of something so flimsy that it could be like toilet paper, and it is capable of leaving the branch where it was conceived, and getting up into the atmosphere and traveling several thousand miles, and then returning and to the exact same branch that where it was born, and give birth again. He said all of this, and he said, "What do you suppose it is that directs this impossible little flimsy creature to be able to do such magnificent things?" He said, "I just want to remind all of you that same intelligence that directs that butterfly is within each and every one of us, and we all have that." It was a very, very poignant moment. Deepak spoke. Deepak didn't know who Jack was at that time. It was just a beautiful, beautiful moment. There were many, many others. I get very teary when I think about Jack because I think about his funeral. I don't know, Mary, were you at his funeral?